This is the Russian dynamite, Masha Slamovich.
Becca here.
This is not America's sweetheart, Davian.
It's Billy Starks. And
the super fly guy, Trayvon Jordan.
This is the fly side flyer, Jalen Brandon.
Hardcore princess, Jules Malone.
Hi there, this is the bubblegum princess, Alexia Nicole.
This is the Brazilian Wonder Woman, Christy James.
This is the baddest black belt, Chennai Kai.
This is Kid Bandit.
The smash hit Joel Bateman.
This is Robin Renegade.
Cody Hawk.
Brutal Bob Evans. And you are listening to Wrestling with Entertainment, one of my favorite podcasts in the whole wide world.
This is Desiderata, and you are listening to Wrestling with Entertainment.
Hello, and welcome to the show with Wrestling with Entertainment, the only audio experience on the web today, the trusted choice for interviewing all of the wrestlers every Tuesday and Wednesday on YouTube and Castbox, sponsored by Rogue Energy and Flail White Coffee. I'm, of course, your host, James J., alongside Scooter Dust.
Hey!
And it is a great day for wrestling, because we are wrestling with the Body Slam Queen, Desi.
Yay, that's me!
It sure is. How are you, Desi?
Hello, James and Scooter. I'm excellent. I'm always excellent.
That's fantastic. And congratulations on, as of this recording, your recent fight win.
Thank you so much. Yes, my recent MMA bout, my 4th professional fight, 9th fight total. It was a lot of fun.
And what do you have coming up next? Are we wrecking balling or body slamming?
Yeah, I would like to really mix both of them together at the same time, no matter where I'm at or what I am doing. But right now, the week after a fight, after an MMA bout, it is kind of like a decompression week. And I have not thought far ahead as far as what my next plans are. I miss wrestling a lot. Someone asked me if I had some wrestling shows coming up because I've been posting a little bit of throwbacks. And they said, I could tell you miss it. And I do, but it's just really hard to focus on wrestling and training, and it's really easy to get injured, but especially when I'm trying to maintain and preserve my body for MMA fights and training. Because 8 weeks of fight camp leading up to a fight really drains you, and losing 25 pounds and then gaining 20 pounds since last Friday is kind of hard on the body.
I could definitely imagine. Whether it's pro wrestling or MMA, where can we find you on social media?
Well, I used to try to keep them separate because they're two totally separate entities. Pro wrestling is its own craft and entertainment, and fighting is its own art and entertainment. And I kind of mix them both on my one Instagram, which is my favorite. I still have 2 separate accounts for Facebook, one for friends and family and one for wrestling, but I still kind of merge them with the same information. I don't get as personal on the pro wrestling one, the Desiderata Facebook, but I tend to get a little more personal on my private account, of course, and then Instagram just has everything I want everyone to know about anything about me, which is pretty much everything because I have no secrets.
Right, and do you have pro wrestling tees, merchandise, or?
I currently don't. I do not. And when I get back into wrestling, I'm going to slowly ease my way back doing matches. I will have some new designs up with them.
Okay. Right, and all of the links to all the social media will be in the description of the video below, both on YouTube and Castbox. Alright.
Yeah.
Let's get into it.
Yes.
You're currently focusing more on MMA rather than wrestling. And it seemed like before you took a step back from wrestling, you were really, you were really coming up. You had a lot of momentum, and then you switched to MMA. what kind of brought on that change?
Well, I did feel like I had a lot of momentum and I have so much potential. I'm athletic and big and strong and different. And in 2019, I think I was working shows every weekend. I was in the Philippines doing a show. I did Australia that year also, Perth, and did a show. The year before I was in England. But then you know what happened? 2020, when everything closed down.
Okay.
That's really what happened. And fortunately, the only thing that was open that year here in Vegas, when everybody was supposed to be hidden in their homes, was my MMA gym. We were still training and working hard. So my mind kind of just went that way, and there was really nothing pro wrestling going on. We were getting some custom pro wrestling matches booked, me and some local wrestlers, because people were still wanting to see pro wrestling, and so they would ask us to do these like live via Zoom or webcam type matches, which was cool. But yeah, but CeeLo Brown, he's a pro wrestling. Well, you know who CeeLo is, but he was coaching out here as well at Sin Bodhi's school, off and on.
Yeah.
And he told me, he's like, hey, do some fighting, do your fighting. I could always get you back to wrestling. So I took that to heart, and I'm like, you know what? I can't fight forever. I feel like, even though it's really hard on your body, I feel like I could get away with wrestling a bit longer. So I could just put that on the back burner for now and focus on this fighting stuff. And then if you want me to get real personal, I left my fiance that year of COVID, and he's a big name pro wrestler. We were engaged for 6 years, and we ended up ending it that year, and that kind of like deterred me and propelled me to my own path, you know?
I gotcha. I understand. I completely understand that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I found in my coaches, or a couple coaches and teammates, I found some qualities in them that I didn't find in my fiance, as far as I needed more support and belief. And it's hard when you're around someone who's not kind of like building you up or helping you feel like you're capable, especially when they're so amazing. You kind of like are looking to them for feedback or guidance. And I just kind of felt like I was alone with someone.
If they ain't supporting you, they ain't that amazing. If they ain't supporting you, they ain't that amazing.
Well, and that's what someone else told me. They're like, if they're not for you, if they're not supporting you, if they don't see what you have to offer, then cut them out. Doesn't matter who they are. And that was hard. One of the hardest things I ever did.
Stupid, you have a question.
That reminds me. TFU. I gotta note this down for later. All right.
Hey, and I'm not trying to talk shit. Bless that man. He did so much for me in so many other ways. And he was gone a lot because he was fulfilling his pro wrestling dreams, and I pushed him to do that, and it's just easier for him to not have to cater to a serious domesticated relationship when you're out on the road like that. It's not fair for him or me. So I'm thankful for him and what I learned while with him.
It wasn't David Arquette, was it? No, I'm kidding.
No.
All right. Now, in doing our research, I came across something that struck me as not odd in a bad way, but odd as in I'm ADHD and I'm a bit of a grammar snob.
Okay.
And it's when researching your name, sometimes it's Desiderata, sometimes it's Desiderata, and I've even seen a couple of others pronunciations. So, can you please set the record straight for us? Is it space Rata or Rata?
Sure, I got you. It's a tough word. The word is a one word that's pronounced Desiderata, and yeah, you can look it up. It's a noun, and it's something that is desired. But everybody would know the Desiderata as a very famous poem from like the 1500s. You would probably recognize it if you saw it. So the poem was given to me by my grandmother, and I was just always fascinated by this poem called the Desiderata. You could Google it or YouTube it, and there's all kinds of beautiful scenic videos with someone reading the words to the poem, the Desiderata. But I just feel like that poem applies to anyone from any culture, from any upbringing, and it just encompassed everything about humans and humanity. It's just great advice, grave advice for anybody. And it always stayed with me through my life. So I didn't know what or who I was or what I wanted to be for pro wrestling. And I just knew I loved that word and what it stood for. And kind of the poem is what I wanted to stand for, the meaning of the poem ultimately. And so when I made a Facebook for it, you can't have one name for Facebook. You have to have a first and last. So I just split the word Desiderata in half. So it was Desiderata. And somewhere, somehow, someone in California that speaks Spanish thought it was de rata, which is the rat.
Yeah, the rat.
And it's not. It's not that.
Yeah,
yeah, so later in my career, before I ended it, I made the decision to start having them just say Desiderata. Desi for short, but just Desiderata, not Desiderata. Just Desiderata is the word. And like I said, it's because of what the poem says.
Oh, right. I love that. I love all that symbolism, and having having grown up in the education system and having been a teacher for a number of years here in New York City. I really love the symbolism and that dedication. All right, James.
Thank you.
Pertaining to names, in your MMA career, you use your shoot name. So is there a difference between using your shoot name and not using Desiderata? Are they separate entities? I did see that you had Desiderata on your gear as well.
Yeah, thank you. More so because I love the meaning of what the Desiderata stands for.
Right.
So I feel like with my persona as a pro wrestler, Desiderata is more like I want to embody what that poem says to be, this ethereal being, basically. And I guess I feel that that's part of me because I'd love to be able to embody that in my real life, in my everyday life, not just in the ring, not just as a persona, not just as a character, not just when the curtains open and I'm, doing my thing. It should be a day-to-day thing because that's really what your pro wrestling character is you magnified. Why do we stop once we go home, right? Hulk Hogan never did. He played Hulk Hogan for every single minute of his life.
But still being Ric Flair.
Yeah. But my name, my given name that my mother gave to me is Jessalyn Michelle. So that's what I have to sign all my legal documents with. And I'm not saying because fighting's real as opposed to anything else, but just that's kind of what they know me as. I probably could have a stage name and I could even probably go by Desiderata, but it's just, especially with the internet, it gets really confusing for people. Some people don't know MMA, some people don't know pro wrestling, and they won't even know the difference, honestly. So I just feel like it helps categorize that for some people.
I got you. now into the wrestling. You work, uh, you worked for 321 Battle, one of the
Yeah.
most interesting pro wrestling companies out there at the time. Unfortunately, they closed their doors. But
Yeah. COVID.
yeah, what was your time during? What was it like in that during that time working for 321 Battle?
Wow, it just felt like it was the height of my career going with 321 Battle and fight wrestling with them. It was it was time of my life. Everybody up there just bled loyalty and enthusiasm and excitement for the wrestling shows and the wrestlers. And 321 gave me opportunities to be put in positions where they could really showcase me and let me show what I'm capable of doing and let me shine. And I'm so thankful that they gave me that opportunity. And I'll never forget, Steve told me before a show, because I didn't know that they were going to build me up the way they did. And I was still pretty self-conscious and not as confident. I didn't know how good I was. Like in hindsight now, I think about I was way better than I realized. But that's what Steve told me. I had like I made a comment right before a show. We were like warming up. I don't remember, but it was before the doors opened, and I made some comment that kind of put myself down about not, I don't know what it was. But Steve looked at me. He's like, Desi, I wish you could see yourself the way we all see you. And for some reason, that just affected me so much. And I'm like, you know what? That's true because everybody looks at you differently than you see yourself. And especially with pro wrestling, I'm so thankful to pro wrestling because you kind of have to tell the audience what you're like and who you are and how to react to you. You don't just kind of let it happen. You tell them who you are and what you expect from them. And the crowd and the audience, especially up there, really did. So I portrayed this character and they believed it. They believed in me and they believed it more than I believed it. And I'm like, you know what? Why can't I see myself like that? Why don't I? And I realize it goes back to a bunch of childhood trauma and, self-esteem issues and stuff that we all might have from growing up. Little things that you have to work throughout your life to shed because I realize we're all amazing and perfect and I am more than capable. And it just took a couple of years of inner work to like realize that, honestly. And I'm thankful for 321 Battle because they did that for me. They allowed me to see me. They allowed me to look at myself. Like I didn't even know I could do that kind of stuff. I didn't know I could make the crowd cry like that. I didn't know I could make them cheer like they did. I didn't know I could do those moves. But like they allowed me to try, and I'm so thankful for that. I won. I won their championship. I still have the belt. I have the trophy.
Wow.
Yeah.
You were the solid steel champion, and I
I
believe,
am. Yep.
and in that match, you actually defeated Colt Cabana. So what
Yeah.
did that mean to you? Because obviously they believed in you a lot to be in that position, to hold that title, and to beat one of the biggest names in pro wrestling.
Yeah. Exactly. I'm so honored.
Scooter.
Now, about 15 some odd years ago, I'm going to date myself here, while I was getting my two degrees, one in education, the other in media, uh, for a particular class, I had to submit a screenplay, and one I had been working on for quite some time, uh, and I had the perfect song to go at the end of it. And that song was a Perfect Circles cover of Imagine.
Oh.
Tell us about your love of Maynard James Keenan
Wow, you did do your research. Well, I guess it's kind of obvious if you look at my stuff at any given time. I'm definitely excited about Tool. I love Maynard, but that's just because, he's the vocalist for the band Tool. But it's really that I love Tool because I do love Lucifer, and I do love his other bands like A Perfect Circle. They definitely remind me of certain times in my life. But most specifically, Tool has kind of guided me through my life. All the albums, all the different time periods since the summer before my 8th grade year. And I don't know what I would do without it. It's like seriously saved me and kept my sanity in check. Um, and I feel like I grew up as he grew up. So the lyrics to his first album, Opiate, was a little more aggressive and a little more hostile, kind of like I was when I was younger. I was getting in trouble. And then you can kind of see the transformation in him, and where you start learning, where you start reading the lyrics and learning that they're about mysticism and the esoteric, and it's real poetry, and you can see the development of him as a person through his lyrics. And I felt like I was going through that too, and so they were like perfectly applied. And I just thought that I think that's really cool. And then again, as I get older and I'm more developed and mature, I look back at those older lyrics and they apply to me in a different way. Like I look at them differently, and they're just magic like that. And for whatever reason, Tool is the band that's done that for me. I don't know why. I hope everybody has some music that does that for them.
Well, we'll get into that a little bit later. I believe there was also a picture of Major James Keenan in a jiu-jitsu class.
Oh, yes, after my last fight, which is in February, I went to Arizona, and that's where he has his winery and is kind of settled down. And he opened up a jiu-jitsu gym because he's been doing jiu-jitsu since the early 2000s, I believe, or 90s. And he opened the school. He's not there all the time, but they marketed a beginner's jiu-jitsu class. You had to kind of be a beginner, I guess. But yeah, I went. I drove down there. I paid $200 something. We didn't even get a T-shirt, and then we didn't get to talk to Maynard at all. But there's just a bunch of people there, a bunch of Tool fans. Very few of them were actual jiu-jitsu people, but there were a few black belts that I met that were big Tool fans too, and do jiu-jitsu, and it was just really cool. He blushed. There's a girl there named Tara who's a great instructor, and she made him blush, and I thought that was cute. She and I are friends. She just had a self-defense seminar, and it's just really cool what jiu-jitsu does as far as bringing people together.
All right. I really like that. Dan, throwing it back to you.
Yes. You wrestled for Impact Wrestling. What was that experience like?
Oh, that's right. I did get an opportunity. I think 2 opportunities.
Yes, one against Phil Hogan, the other one was against Rosemary and Taiwan.
That's right. The experience was cool. The experience was really cool, but the matches were not my favorite matches at all. I liked the match with Kira, except the end got botched. Wasn't my fault. And then I think that the other 3-way, something weird happened with it, or it wasn't televised, or I've never even seen that one. But the thing that I liked the most about that experience was Chavo was in the back, and he said, "You got this." He's like, "You belong here. You belong here." And I forget what words he used, but he said, I'm talented to deserve more than I've been getting. So I kind of hung on to that, but I think the very next day was was COVID, so, or very next day. Very next year was COVID, so that's when everything just went.
Now, you also wrestled Madison Eagles. Before there was a women's revolution, before there was indie pro wrestling for women, it was Madison Eagles and not a lot of people around her. What did it mean to you to wrestle somebody that's such highly regarded in the independent pro wrestling?
Wait, who was it? I must have missed the name.
Oh, Madison Eagles.
Oh, in Australia.
Yes.
It was intimidating to wrestle her. It was intimidating to be there at all. Her style was a little bit different. I wasn't familiar with it. I think that we could do a lot better again. If I had the opportunity to do it again, I think after one experience, after that, it's always better.
Okay. Gonna run it back for the Madison Eagles. Hey,
Yeah.
Now, it's no secret that you are a horror fan, and that you've done quite a bit of your fair share of acting.
Yeah.
Tell us about working with Tom Devlin.
Oh, Tom is just absolutely awesome. Tom is super helpful. He's just so creative. I met him on set of a movie that wasn't his, but he created a really crazy, scary prop. I can't wait to watch that movie. And he was a lot more quiet on that set, and I think that that's cool because as much of a reputation as he has and as talented as he is, he didn't try to step on anyone's toes. He let the director be the director and do the director's job, and I thought that that was very professional of him. But then I recently did a vampire flick with him. I can't wait to see this one either. And he was excellent at delegating, excellent at directing. He's got a sweet voice. So I know it was fun. He's just talented and crazy, and the people that he attracts are kind of wild too. So I like that.
What out of all the acting you've done so far, what would you say is your most memorable role?
Oh gosh. Well, the one that's got the most views and reviews is Bigfoot's Wild Weekend, where I have a totally nude scene.
Okay.
But so that is most memorable because it's always I'm always being reminded of it. But I like the roles where I could get a little more emotional, where I could actually, emote, and rather than just, I always ended up playing like the forlorn, love, saddened, heartbroken woman, or the sexy girl, and sometimes that gets boring. But I liked this Tom Devlin film because I have a bloodbath scene where I make out with another girl. It's like pretty intimate, and blood just pours on us, and we just keep making out for some reason, which is also a topless scene, by the way. But that movie's not out yet. But there were Fighting Sleep was probably my favorite role because I liked the oh man, I loved the storyline. It was so sad and just kind of twisted.
Right.
I mean, if you go to my IMDb page, you'll see a lot more.
All right. My IMDb page, you only see one credit. But full disclosure, I didn't exactly want to be the one to bring up Bigfoot's wild weekend.
Going from Bigfoot to, can you tell us about Barefoot Boy?
About what?
Barefoot Boy on Raw.
Barefoot Boy.
Barefoot Boy.
Barefoot Girl, I believe is what he's saying.
Yes.
Where is it? What's the Barefoot Girl?
A segment with Dolph Ziggler on Raw.
Oh! That's right. So I had so many extra scenes for SmackDown and Raw from LA to Fresno to Sacramento and I think one in Arizona. I can't even remember how many little. I wish I could get a compilation of all the little cameos I had in both SmackDown and Raw. There's so many I can't even remember. I remember being part of the Congo line. I remember being in a party scene backstage with. I remember the Dolph one now. I can't even remember them. And then only one time Jennifer Thomas and I got to do a match before to show, and it was one of the best 5-minute matches I ever had, and I feel like nobody watched. But the Barefoot Girl, that's funny. I was wearing a cute outfit and high heels, and Dolph is quite short, and they didn't want me to tower over him, so they told me to take my shoes off. And I'll never forget when Shotzi was there too. She and I actually were extras in the background a lot. She could not stop laughing because she's like, that is so you, just being like native and hippie-ish, and I have all this pretty makeup on and my hair's done, but I'm still barefoot. Like, she just thought it was hilarious.
What was that experience being an extra behind the scenes of WWE? Because obviously, you know, WWE is the biggest wrestling promotion out there. So, being backstage, well, and seeing how everything works, what was that experience like?
You know, it wasn't shocking to me. I felt like I'd already experienced things like that. I've been doing productions and theater and performances my whole life, really. Nothing to that level, of course. Nothing to that professionalism, but it wasn't too different. Like, I felt like it was normal that I belonged there too. But it was a lot of fun and exciting. I really thought that there was a chance I could be noticed. Like, they liked me, and they maybe would want me to work for them one day. They did give me a tryout and fly me to Orlando before that and since that, but I never got the contract. But I will say that's where I learned about Smucker's Uncrustables peanut butter and jelly sandwiches.
Oh yes.
It was fun sitting back there eating catering. They had the best food and snacks.
Oh, that's the way to my heart. Smucker's.
Oh yeah, those Uncrustables, man. Another thing Shotzi laughed at. She laughed at me a lot now that I think about it. She laughed at that I would take the crimped edges off the Uncrustables. She's like, "How do you take the crust of an Uncrustable off?"
I do that too.
Do you?
Yeah, it's the softest part. I don't know if it's a texture thing or it's just I don't know, but
yeah.
Interestingly enough, I saw someone turn them into cinnamon sugar donuts, where they literally just stuck them in a deep fryer and glazed them with cinnamon sugar. Like, boom, it's dessert now.
Wow, that does sound delicious. Oh my gosh, they're so good. Oh my gosh, you could probably do so many things with them. I've eaten 4 of them since my fight ended because I can actually eat normal food or food now.
Grape or strawberry?
I don't even like grape jelly. I never like grape jelly, but I love only grape jelly for the Uncrustables.
Yes! I don't know what it is about that specific grape jelly.
Yeah. Yeah, that is crazy, huh? What is that?
Have you had the chocolate hazelnut ones yet?
I have not tried that one.
Oh man! I found them once, and I never found them ever again.
Oh man,
You
I've
know,
never seen them.
yeah, that's why I was so surprised.
Yeah.
But you know, you talk about wishing you got a portfolio, if you will, of your your extra work. Uh, I wish I had done that too. Back in 2011. Of course, I only did it once.
Did you? I want to know about it.
Fatal four-way. I'm somewhere in the back getting attacked by the Nexus as they make their way in. I trained with the NYWC, and Pat Buck was going through one of his many stints as an agent, and whenever they needed extras for In Long Island, they came to the NYWC. So it was, I mean, you see like the back of my head for a couple of seconds. That's about it.
That's still cool, but you got to be backstage with them too, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the first. Backstage was the first time I ever saw Ronda Rousey in person, and she was so gregarious and smiley, and just seemed really happy all the time.
No one's that happy all the time. No.
Maybe maybe it didn't last long. I think she just got signed with them.
Now, a memory of pro wrestling of my youth, and again, I'm gonna date myself here. I feel really fucking old. Is seeing WCW's Hog Wild, aka Road Wild, the pay-per-view that would take place every year in Sturgis, South Dakota. Tell us about being a bartender at the Sturgis Rally, and do you think it's time professional wrestling, or do you think pro wrestling is ready to return to the Rally?
My gosh, yeah. I'll never forget. It was actually Chris Jericho. I was hanging out with him. I just saw him in passing, and he was telling me how he's like, that's impressive that you get to spend that much time at Sturgis, and I'm in charge of the bar that's there. So I'm like, they call me bar daddy. I'm the boss. I bring the girls, and I am the boss, and I run that little pool bar. And so Jericho was always like, that is just such a big deal because girls all over are just vying to try to get on because it's a big event. And it was the only event that was happening during 2020, by the way. Remember the super spreader? Everybody hated us for being there. And so Jericho remembers how it was back in the day, and that's why he understands how big a deal it was and how cool it is to actually get the opportunity to be there. And he said all the wrestlers back in the day, the 80s and 90s, would have motorcycles and ride bikes up there. Honestly, after hearing that especially, and now after knowing how it runs and knowing how the biker culture is there, I think they would love it. I think it's a perfect opportunity. I think they need to bring it back. Definitely have good women's matches as well.
Oh, absolutely. The biggest drawback to it was that there was no ticket gate. Since it was working as part of the Sturgis festivities. But I always loved watching it specifically at Sturgis because you knew it was a different kind of atmosphere, and when pro wrestling happens outside, and I'm talking legit outside, not in a stadium with an open roof. There's something a bit more
Exciting?
Exciting, maybe even a little bit more magical, something that makes it just a little stand out just a little bit more.
Yeah, I would agree. I would say magical. Well, I love being outside anyway, so I love everything should be outside, in my opinion. But yeah, it's magical there because it's just magic there. That town makes all its business those 2 weeks. Everything's literally closed down. Otherwise, and then the town operates from the money that it makes. The hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars they make from those 2 weeks. So everyone's excited to be there. I've never felt energy like I did the year of COVID. I think because of COVID, everybody was there, but they were just so happy to be outside and around people. And that was magic. So anything that happens there, I think, is just magnified of its coolness.
Absolutely, absolutely love it. All right, James.
Yes. Can you tell us the Canadian story?
Me?
Yes.
Comedian?
The Canadian.
Canadian.
Oh, why I'm not allowed in Canada?
I guess that's the story.
um, well, I love traveling, and upon one of my road trips, which was a drive to Canada in my Subaru, brand new Subaru, I got to the border and they pulled me over and then they told me I'm not allowed. And I said, why? And they said, your criminal record.
What?
And I sat there at the border for like several hours. At one point, they asked me to tell them everything that happened and why my criminal record has this on it. So I had to tell them the whole story. And after some hours, I said, listen, I'm not trying to be to Canada. I'm trying to drive to Alaska where I could go to pro wrestling training. And eventually he looked at me. He said, all right, I'm going to let you go. But you got to get this. You got to get this paperwork, which is rehabilitation paperwork. And then I better see you on TV wrestling. And I said, absolutely. I'm going to be on TV wrestling. And I went up to Alaska and I trained up there with them. So I didn't tell you why I can't go there, though.
Okay.
Criminal record.
Fair enough.
They didn't even care about my DUI when I was 20. They didn't care about that at all.
Okay. So, you was in the ring with Tatanka.
Yeah.
What was that experience like?
Man, you know, I didn't watch him when he was in his heyday. So I didn't watch a lot of it when they were in their heyday, but so I kind of looked at him as if he was just someone I met or any other wrestler, right? Of course, I gave him the respect because of what he's gone through and endured and experienced. That merits a lot of respect. And the young people at the event didn't recognize him either, and were asking me and my brother they asked Tatanka to take pictures of me and my brother with them. Wow. And I was embarrassed for that. And Tatanka looked at me, he's like, it's okay, it's a different generation. And I was like, that is cool, because we're all everything changes, and I don't know people from back then, even musically. So I thought that his humility like that was like super admirable and respectable. He managed the ring. He manages the ring like a nice ring general. And I just feel like he's a great example. I wish I could wrestle with him more, but I don't have that faction anymore. I was wrestling with my little native brothers, and we don't wrestle together anymore.
Arrow Club.
Uh-huh.
Now, you could absolutely say pass on this next question if you don't want to answer it. We'll move on to another one. You are Native American. Could you tell us about your heritage and your tribe?
Oh, and I'd just like to add on to that. Afterwards, if you could tell us about your experiences speaking at the Native Youth Wellness Conference as well.
I appreciate how much research you guys have done. Yeah. Well, the first question was about my tribe.
Yes.
Yeah, California Native American. My grandparents' relatives on my mother's side were all here in California when the Spaniards arrived, and the Spanish put them all on missions, and we got part Spanish in us because of that. I don't identify with the Spaniards whatsoever. And then so a lot of my family members fled because they didn't want to be part of the mission because it's kind of confining, and basically they were enslaved for a while, so they didn't want to keep staying there. So you could see the family tree or the lineage of names change, and then they kind of went away. They went to other states, even to Mexico, to go away. But or they stayed in LA, the LA area. So I have a lot of relatives that have been in LA or Southern California for a long time. However, my mother's family moved to Central California. Fast forward, my mother ended up working for tribes that are located in Central California, and that's the tribe that I grew up around. It's called Mono, and then there's parts of the story that I'm not including, but where I was born was on the other side of the Central California, which is a Paiute tribe, and these tribes just became my family. And there's a lot of similarities with California tribes. They used to be probably one bigger tribe until they got separated, because there's over 100 tribes in California, and most people couldn't even name one. And so it kind of is one thing. If you're California native, we have that in common, even though it's a little bit different. So my mother did really good at trying to hang on to that tradition and the roots and reminding us that we're native. But I was so fascinated by traveling and other cultures that I'm like, we're all the same. We're all just humans. You know, I'm not going to try to be a race. Like, I wouldn't want someone going around being too proud that they're, I don't know, Slovakian or whatever people are. Like, why do I need to do that? We should just be tolerant and respectful of each other. But I noticed with pro wrestling, they really wanted that and they liked it. And it really inspired them. And Tatanka actually said that too, that he used to speak with the native youth and try to get them on a better path, because in the 90s, the reservations were really dangerous and there's a lot of abuse and addiction. So it's gotten better in my opinion, but I'm also an optimistic person. So nonetheless, I go out and travel and do whatever I'm doing with my life, and finally I feel like I'm at a place where I could bring back to the youth my experiences. They've always kind of had me come back and help. I did like winter wellness camps for the last several years where I'm just like kind of a counselor. And this time I actually have a craft, which is self-defense or MMA. They really loved knowing that I did pro wrestling. They wanted to like do elbow drops. So they're inspired, but they don't really know anybody else back on the reservations. No one else does that stuff. So I think that that's going to be my niche, but also my calling more than just a niche. You know, I feel like that's kind of what I am supposed to do. Because I'm never exposed to it otherwise.
Right. I mean, keeping on that topic, learning about any culture, the best way to do it is through the food. What are you eating from that culture? What are you eating from them? What's some traditional dishes, I should say?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Yeah. So, learning about any culture, the best way to do it is through the food. So, what are some traditional dishes that you eat?
Oh, traditional foods? really, really not a lot. In the Central California, they made a lot of acorn mush. There's the acorns ground up. I don't like it. I don't make it. I don't eat it. There's pine nut gathering, and that's kind of like a traditional traditional event where families go out and pick pine nuts. It's a lot of work. So I think I think it's important that the families do that together outside, and it's for food, and that's something that we kind of lose this in this life as a in modern times. We don't just go forage for food, and therefore we don't appreciate food as much. So I like that, and I like doing that, and I like pine nuts. But obviously, every tribe everywhere eats Indian tacos, and the fry bread is delicious, but so bad. I try not to eat it too much.
Scooter, you have a question. Scooter, you go.
Yeah. Yeah. What was your most memorable MMA fight?
Gosh, they're all pretty memorable. Any of them from my last amateur fight on. I won 3 belts in my amateur days out of 5 fights, and one of them was my last fight. And that was the first time I saw my body doing what it knew how to do through muscle memory. But then my first pro fights were memorable because I got this big opportunity to fight for a big company, the PFL, and I was unable to use my arm. Like, I literally couldn't lift up my arm, and I was in pain. I had shoulder issues. It lasted over 2 years of strange shoulder issues that came from my messed up neck that ultimately we've found out is coming from my hip, but that's a different story. Anyhow, that was memorable because I knew I wasn't physically able to do anything, so I went deep in my mind and I visualized everything that I saw in the fight, and it happened. And that changed my whole perspective. My life started changing that at that time, which was early last year.
Can you tell us about being in Sarah Baldwin's music video?
Oh, Sarah's an amazing musician. She's my best friend. I met her in Bishop on the Paiute Reservation, actually, and she had this SoundCloud of these songs that she just haphazardly recorded. And I'm like, these are treasures. You have to do something with this music. She didn't. She was going through her own thing of drinking and getting sober. She's been sober now, and ever since she's been sober, she's had this just surge of creative endeavors and music. She's put out like 5 albums in these sober years, and several music videos. And one of her music videos I got to be in and drum in, and we look kind of like twins, and that's a compliment for me because I think she's so beautiful.
What is that kind of mean to you that, you're doing a lot of incredible things in pro wrestling, MMA, movies, and you're also in a music video. So what does that kind of mean to you, doing all these other incredible things as well?
Oh, well, I will say all I ever wanted to do was be a singer in a band ever since I was a little kid. So that I don't know why that's the only thing I haven't done. But someone I was just telling my one of my coaches and teammates, I call him Sensei. He helped a lot with this fight actually. But he wasn't my cornerman. Anyhow, I told him I'm going this weekend out of town to do a little movie shoot. Um, it's funny because it's kind of full circle because the people are from the Bay Area and it's the first director that ever asked me to be in a movie. I think it was like 15 years ago or maybe a little less than that. And now I get to see him again. And then he's going to be in the Fresno area, which I happen to know people from there because I lived there for a small stint and did little movies from there. So these people from two different areas, but the same industry, are meeting together, and I get to see him this weekend. And I'm not training because of it. Whereas someone like my friend, I call him a friend, and even though he talks like this to me, Sean Strickland would say something like, why are you doing anything else? If it's fighting that you want to do, why would you waste your time with anything else? And that is a tough question because it's like when you're really driven to do something and succeed, that's your focus. That's all you're doing. And that's been kind of a hard thing for me to try to understand. But I do believe there has to be balance. I do believe you can't be obsessed. I do believe you'll eat yourself from the inside out if you're just hyper focused on one thing and you're not giving yourself and other elements of yourself, because a human has a myriad of different interests.
Right.
If you're not giving that and feeding that, then you can eat yourself alive. And I was always a performer first. I wasn't, I only started this fight stuff in 2017. Then later in life, I'm in my 30s. So I just feel like my goal in life and my passion and my obsession is to have experiences. Like I like living life, and these things kind of just find me. So I'm just gonna keep taking them.
Kind of like feeding all aspects of your soul, so to speak.
Say that again?
It's kind of like feeding all aspects of your soul.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And I think that's a great segue into our next segment, and that is Desiderata's Bizarre Adventure. You're a pro wrestler that goes up and down the roads, and weird, crazy, and bizarre things are bound to happen. Can you tell us a road story that fits that description?
A good story that fits the description of adventure?
A weird, crazy, bizarre thing that happened on a road trip, just in general.
I know. I think about this all the time because I always think I'm going to get asked. Everything is crazy. I've driven across country and back in my van. It took 3 months. I drove to Alaska and back in my Subaru. It took 3 months. I've traveled to Indonesia and Dubai and Greece by myself. Like I've been punched in the streets trying to save a woman who was getting beat at a bus stop in Scotland. That was probably the hardest I've ever been punched. A man punched me twice.
Wow.
And then the woman proceeded to tell me I saved her life. And then when she talked to the police, I feel like she told them a totally different story. So, man, I don't know. I would have to say it's during travels, though. Like in Panama, we were on in hammocks over the water on these stilts with thatch roofs, like a little gazebo type thing.
Yeah.
And my friend Ann and I were hanging out with some Swedish boys. They were so cute. And we heard this horrible creaking sound, and all of a sudden the entire building just started collapsing and sinking, falling into the water until the entire thing was under the water. And I popped up. I was trapped in my hammock. I popped my head up. I had a little pocket of air where the thatch roof pointed because that was the only part above water. And I called for my friend Anne, and I could not find her, hear her, or feel her. She was trapped underwater by one of the logs for some time, and also tangled in her hammock. And eventually she freed herself and was gasping for air. They got us out of the water. Our bags, we had like a purse with our passport and money, and it was at the bottom of that water, and maybe 20 feet. And my friend was so scared. Basically, we got out of the water, someone put a towel around her, a drink in her hand, and a cigarette in her lips, and she didn't even smoke, and she's just shaking out of fear, and that's all they could do. And I'm just glad it wasn't worse, because if that was in America, people would have definitely sued someone for something. But she was okay, so we just carried on with our vacation, even though we were very wary of those buildings on stilts over the water.
I would definitely say so.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Scudo, the Colossal.
Yes. Now, let's say one of the two remaining blockbuster movie studios, and we're gonna ignore the fact that there is a strike going on. Let's say a movie studio wants to make a movie about the. Dave, should we include all the combat
Everything.
or just
her life?
Let's say a studio wants to make the Desiderata combat sports career movie, life movie, biography, whatever you'd like to call it.
Okay.
Of course, the first thing that's important with any movie, the first thing you do, of course, is you start with the soundtrack.
Oh.
What would be 3 to 5 songs on the soundtrack to the Desiderata movie?
Oh, wow. What a good question. I bet if I had a lot of time to think, I could come up with the perfect ones, but man, and it depends on what part of my life you would want to put the song to. Like, what is the biography gonna, what's the autobiography gonna actually be about? Are they gonna have all the sad parts?
Well, I mean, you are the producer, so you could add or take away whatever you want of this movie.
Okay. Well, obviously, a Tool song from the Lateralis album. Not sure which one.
Okay.
There's a Sarah Baldwin song. And what's cool about her music, every time she releases a song, I'm like, this is applying to my life right now too, which I think is really cool. I walked out on my Friday night to a Pantera song, which I'm like, oh my God, I just was hooked on this song for a couple weeks. And that's because where I'm at right now, the lyrics were perfect and the sound was aggressive, like I felt, which is a new level of confidence and power. And that's what I feel like I've obtained in the last year. It's even though the year before that was really challenging and had a lot of ups and downs, I feel like I'm at a place where I'm finally like steadfast and doing my practices, which is helping a lot. So probably something like that. Man, there's so many songs I love. I really love this song by a band called Ringo Death Star, which I think is really moody and would probably fit some. It's called God Help the Ones You Love. And I mean, I love Rush songs. I think there's times in my life where I feel like any Rush song could apply. Man, I could just go on forever with all that.
Copy and paste your Spotify, is what you're saying.
Yeah. And then maybe in my sadder years, some Alice in Chains. I don't know. Like, in my hopeful years, there's a song called Change by Blind Melon that every time I feel like I leveled up a little bit in my life, that song comes to me.
Okay,
All right.
I'm thinking this. I'm liking this soundtrack so far.
Yeah.
Alright,
Yeah. Anything Sarah Baldwin too, you know. It just depends on where in the movie. Because all her songs are different from, she calls it from mountain rock to stripper rock. She has an acoustic. She has a, like, 80s rock. So,
Scooter, part 2.
Okay. Now we get to the next most important thing, which is casting.
it's what?
Which is casting.
Casting. Okay.
Who would play Desiderata in the Desiderata movie? And you cannot say yourself because you are contractually obliged to make a Stan Lee-esque cameo.
Right. Gosh, there's no one like me because all the actresses are so tiny and skinny. Um, oh man. I don't know. I would really have to get some people to audition and really feel it out. Like who is gonna be 5'10" and just kind of walk around like that? I can't even think of a female actress.
I mean, we could always put them in, like, wetsuits if the size is the problem.
Well, yeah, that's probably the least of the concern, right? Because on screen you can't really tell how big or small people are.
Sure.
But um,
I mean,
I don't know. I don't know.
the movie
Okay.
without the casting.
Yeah, open casting. Maybe there's some new up and comer that would be willing. Like undiscovered talent.
Definitely. Now, every movie has a supporting cast. Who would be 3 people in your movie that's significant in your life, and who would play them?
Well, there'd be my best girlfriends, my best male friend, and my coaches, especially my main coach, Dave, who is Hulk Hogan's nephew, by the way.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, actually, I went with him to Florida once, side note, and partied on a boat with his brother Horace, who I had in a guillotine choke, and Horace shit canned me off the boat, and we were wasted on tequila.
God. Oh, that Horace.
I know. He didn't know how to break that choke because it, was a shoot, and so he just brute strength just shoved me off his head and threw me overboard.
Oh, are we leaving that up to casting as well?
I think we're going to have open casting for all of this. But I don't know anybody like Sarah or my best friend who made her first $1 million in 13 months recently, or my best friend has 3 god kids and is a counselor. Or my crazy mother.
Hey, we all have crazy mothers.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true. There's no way around it.
No, yeah. Do it. Either way, it sounds like an incredible movie, and you can pre-order the tickets now.
Thank you. Hey, I know who would play me.
Yeah.
My mom, speaking of my mom, she told me this girl reminds my mom of me. And I'm like, what? Why? And then I'm like, you know what? I could see it because just like my mom said, she's like, you just be yourself. So you just do whatever you want to do. Whatever you want to do, you just go do it. And you go do it and you just be yourself. Whereas I feel like my mom felt restricted because her parents weren't supportive or encouraging. But the girl is Miley Cyrus.
Oh, okay.
It's random, right? She is apparently part Cherokee.
Really?
But
I didn't know that.
yeah, she just has this little edge that I like. I don't think I have that edge. But
Get in like a wrecking ball.
yeah, I mean, yeah, I think I portray it more than I really realize.
Yeah.
But like look at Miley's little short reels or shorts. Like it's kind of, I like it.
I thought you were about to say sister and be like, wait, what's Noah got to do with this?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, now, this always fascinates me because I'm a big arena guy. I love the arenas. And you were in the Tokyo Dome for the second biggest pro wrestling event in the world, WrestleMania.
Uh-huh.
What being at the second biggest pro wrestling event of all time, Wrestle Kingdom, what perspective did that give you on your own career?
Well, the first thing I thought, to be honest, was how huge and immense and cool the building is. It's this dome-shaped building. And what the first thing that came to my mind was how that's there existing and how I believe I can make something like that, a structure. I have this dream to create a structure that's similar to that here in Las Vegas and make it climate controlled, but make it feel like you're outside. So there's going to be plants and foliage and trails and waterfall ponds. And so that people in Las Vegas can actually enjoy outside when it's freezing, which it gets, and when it's hot as hell, which it is right now. It's miserable, but mostly because their animals and their pets can't go outside. So it's going to provide a place for their pets to go outside. And it's going to be a venue. We can have events there. Where I also want to cater to wellness and health. So anybody who has camps for the youth or workshops, it's a huge place. So they just need a small part of it just to feel like you're outside in nature, but comfortable. So that's what the Tokyo Dome did to me. And that really projected my vision of it to actually be inside something so massive. However, speaking of wrestling, man, those Japanese wrestlers, I'm like, you know what it told me is because I guess I had some girls kind of nervous to work with me because I'm intimidating, evidently. And so I always tried to be careful and not hurt them or not go too rough or not slam them too hard. Or, I wanted them to last the match, right? Till I won or whoever. But that just showed me, I'm like, if they can't handle what I have to offer, then they can't be wrestling me. And that's that.
You also met Pat Patterson, one of the biggest contributors to pro wrestling. I believe that was at the Cauliflower
Cauliflower Alley.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was that experience meeting Pat Patterson?
Wrestling at Cauliflower?
Meeting Pat Patterson.
Man, there's just so many amazing pioneers and people in the industry that I was beside myself. But I learned more about them from meeting them than I knew beforehand. And I'm just thankful that I was able to kind of, not everyone's going to be around forever, but I'm just thankful that I was able to have that encounter with a lot of people that were there, even including Malaya. Man, now I just brain farted on her name. Some wrestlers that have been wrestling. How do you say her name? Malia Hosaka.
Malia Hosaka. I have actually worked with her as well.
Yeah. Well, she's intense too, and I feel like the ones who are pioneers like that, like Pat, they're pretty intense, and I like that.
Right. Onto a controversial subject. Pineapple on pizza. What's your stance? Hello?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Say again.
Pineapple on pizza. What's your stance?
Yes, pineapple on everything. Pineapple pizza, poke bowl, burger. Yes.
So you're just very pro pineapple in general.
Pro pineapple. Put it in my mouth. Yes.
What's your spirit Pokemon?
Pokemon.
Yes. Spirit
Snorlax.
Pokemon. Yes.
All
He's a Udis, that's why.
We love the late great Tracy Smothers on the show. Do you know the acronym for Doug? THUG.
No. I don't know that.
Scooter.
right. T is for terrible. H is for hell. U is for ugly. And G is for jail. Because a thug can't spell.
That's right. You said it way better than I ever could have.
Oh, thank you.
He's
You
had
go.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that guy. You did a great example of him.
Oh, thank you.
He died young, I feel like.
Yeah.
Definitely going too soon.
Gone too soon. Yes. Tracy's mom was an absolute legend to us. And we always like to pay a little tribute to him with every broadcast.
Yeah.
Now, it's time for the weirdest question you'll be asked on a wrestling interview. Hopefully.
Oh,
Would you
okay.
ever consider wrestling in Raw? Not Dwayne Johnson, not the country, an actual physical Raw.
Rock?
Yes, a Raw.
A rock. Think about
Wrestling an actual rock?
Yes, correct.
yeah, like one that would line your driveway.
Oh, how big is it?
I would say it's about the size of a shoe.
Yeah, a couple of pounds, like a Heideke rock.
Oh, yeah, I'd wrestle that. I'll wrestle anything.
Alright. Well, just for context, there's this wrestler named Psycho Mike that wrestled an actual Raw for over 15 minutes and a tungsten man match. That's an arm man match that lasts for 2 weeks.
In Canada.
Okay, well, I'd have to pay to go to Canada and do a bunch of paperwork.
On a more serious note, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
5 years, I will be halfway done planning the infrastructure of my dog dome. I call it a dog dome. And I will have had 3 champion belts with MMA and then have a newborn child with an amazing husband. And probably still doing pro wrestling matches.
Alright. And is there a match you would like people to go out of their way to see that best shows off what your pro wrestling is all about?
Yeah, honestly, any match I've ever done with Shotzi was good for me. I feel like I just think she's amazing. She probably has a great match with everyone, but I loved my matches with her. I loved my matches with Mia Yim. I loved any match with the Aero Club because we got a lot of heat. There's a lot of passion there. And all my 3-2-1 matches. 3-2-1 battle matches.
Okay. I'll find a match with Shotzi on YouTube and I'll put the link to it in the description of the video below for anybody that hasn't seen it, wants to see it, wants to re-see it after this interview.
Yeah.
And since we are nearing the conclusion of this interview, we are wrestling with the 8 questions of
Yeah.
You're the first person that's been so enthusiastic about it.
Really?
Usually they're like, oh no, what is this?
What? I like it.
No, nevertheless, it is our speed round, our bonus round, the round where we see who you really are. Are you ready?
Well, I'm thankful you think of me, and I'm thankful that you even know anything about me. So I appreciate that.
Absolutely. Alright. Excluding yourself, greatest wrestler of all time.
Excluding myself will do what?
Excluding yourself, greatest wrestler of all time.
Oh, you know what? I'll still say my ex-fiance, Jeff Cobb. I told him I was his number 2 fan, and I still believe it. I wasn't lying.
Worst wrestler.
Huh?
Worst wrestler.
Worst?
Yes.
Oh man, I don't want to say anyone on the local scene because they still wrestle. But I feel like back when it was still WWF, there were some wrestlers that I I couldn't even believe they were wrestling. Because like I felt like if they were wrestling now, then like everybody would boo them away. But oh, I know who I would say. Did you guys happen to see the episode where oh man, um, Dean Ambrose flirts with me in the audience?
With AJ
And
Styles
he,
and
yeah, AJ Styles. So yeah, that's right. Dean was the referee for AJ Styles and James Ellsworth.
yes.
So James Ellsworth, he I don't know what he was doing there, but I probably wouldn't say that if he didn't try to hit on us in the catering room.
Oh, hey, a man with 2 hands and no chin gets his ass.
That's right. So I mean, maybe he's better than they let him be, but I just
Yeah.
But
he made it to WWE. That's better than a lot.
but we've seen James work some independent stuff. I won't take anything away from James' success, but
He's more in the category, this category, than greatest of all time. Is what we're trying to say.
Yeah. Okay. So that was a good choice for me.
Yes. We will accept the answer. You are main eventing WrestleMania for the World Championship. Who is your opponent?
Ronda Rousey.
If you could come out to anyone's entrance music, past or present, who would it be?
Shinsuke Nakamura when he had Nita Strauss guitaring for him.
Sweet. Finish the sentence. Kayfabe is.
Kayfabe is dead.
we also would have accepted is quite good on toast.
Oh. Okay, I like that too.
Squash. Vegetable or fruit?
Oh, wait, squash what or what?
Is it a vegetable or is it a fruit?
Squash?
Yes.
It's a fruit, I think.
And that is the correct answer.
Yes.
It tastes like a vegetable.
But it has seeds. It has tomato on it.
We got a new slogan for the American Squash Commission, which totally doesn't fit.
Oh.
New Japan Wrestler Taichi. His radio gets smaller every year, revealing more concepts to the world. My question, what is the appropriate trunks to butt cheek ratio for ring
For the trunks?
Yes.
Trunks to butt cheek ratio.
Well, I I guess I want to be encouraging for anyone to wear whatever they want. But if it's a but, I mean, as long as it covers the little line underneath the butt cheek.
Maybe not exactly sky blue, but a little bit,
Full, so you're saying full coverage?
Full coverage, yeah.
Gotcha. And the last question, the main event, the thing everybody wants to know. Have you ever had a conversation with a stranger in a supermarket about Darby Allin?
I don't recall ever talking about Darby Allin, no.
And that is the correct answer. And
that's true.
That will conclude the interview. Thank you so much for coming on and doing this with us.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Thank you so much.
And once again, where can we find Desiderata on social media?
Well, Google Desiderata and read the poem. That's what I was really hoping when I had the name that they would find that poem because of me. And then find me on Instagram at Body Slamming Queen 333. Because I'm a body slamming queen.
And you don't even have to type it into your Google machine. The link to her social media will be in the description of the video below or on YouTube and Castbox. Simply click the link. A new tab will appear. You have no excuse. Give her a damn follow.
That's right. No excuses.
Yes. And hopefully we will see the body slamming queen slamming some bodies sooner rather than later. Fingers crossed.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm open to considering bookings. So
Okay. And of course, thank you for listening. If you like what we're doing, please like, subscribe, comment, and on YouTube Castbox. This was Hashtag Energy and Paragon Coffee. Join us tomorrow as we interview Sean Deacon Keegan. And join us every Tuesday and Wednesday on YouTube and Castbox for new insightful interviews. Follow the show at Wrestling with E, but on Twitter and Instagram for information on who we're interviewing, when we're interviewing them, links to those interviews, and so much more. You can follow me personally at JamesJ993. Where can we follow Scooter?
As always, my stand-up comedy special, live from Camp Lejeune, free water at the door. It's just been renewed for a couple more days. Keep your eyes open to social media for that. Follow me on Twitter at ScooterDust. Again, keep your eyes open for any and all updates concerning the remix returning to the airwaves, and revel in my Dungeons and Dragons antics along with Rico Constantino Jr. and the rest of the Smoking Dragons clan. Twitch.tv/Smoking Dragons. Season 2 is about to wrap.
nice.
Now, Desi, when I say wrestling with, you say entertainment, okay?
Okay.
For our special guest, Desi Rata, Liquid Yacht, Scooter Dust, I'm James J, and this has been Wrestling with
Entertainment!
Hey folks, this is the Colossal Mike Law, and you are listening to Wrestling with Entertainment. Enjoy the show, support these guys. We appreciate it very much. We'll see you at ringside.